Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylina and I am the Hex Witch, and today we've got a bit of a hefty video for you today. Today we are going to be talking about Chinese medicine, and I am getting a lot of my information from Between Heaven and Earth, A Guide to Chinese Medicine by Harriet Beinfeld, LAC, and Ephraim Korngold, LAC, OMD. Not OMG, OMD. And this is what this book looks like. And this is a pretty hefty book on Chinese medicine. So this is where I'm getting the majority of my information from. And I'm probably going to be breaking this video up into 3 different sections because this is a big book and there's a lot of information in it, and it can feel almost a little bit overwhelming. So I'm breaking it down. So if you want to just grab a coffee, grab a drink, settle in and just listen about Chinese medicine, that way you don't have to necessarily pick this huge book up and read it all by yourself if you don't want to. I would definitely recommend it though if you do have an interest in other types of medicine or Chinese medicine. So let's get started. So how I'm gonna kind of do this is I'm reading through it first, highlighting the things that I find to be really important and annotating it. So I'm going to be reading through my notes and just having an open discussion about it. I'm also going to say right off the get-go, I am by no means a professional in this. I just love to read. I am a massage therapist, so I do have some background in like naturopathic medicine, as well as learning some Eastern culture medicine as well. We do touch base on that through our massage school, and obviously we go into great detail about how the body works and the functions and all of that. By no means to the level of like a doctor or like a specific naturopathic doctor. They obviously go through much more schooling than we do, but I am not going into this blind. I do have some background in these kinds of subjects. So with that being said, that way, you know, if you're listening to this video, nobody gets angry if, you know, I'm not like a total expert, because I am not, but I love learning about this stuff. I love researching and reading and then talking about it and maybe having a conversation with you guys, what you guys think, you know? And I will probably go into at least 1 or 2 rants about the modern medical world of today. And I've got some stories to share on that as we kind of go through this book. So, section 1. So there's a lot of like cool kind of quotes throughout this book as well that I find really interesting. And if you see me keep looking over here, I've got my computer with all my notes on here as well as some of the notes that I wrote in the book. So if I'm looking off to the side or looking down, that is why, because I will be reading off some of these from the actual computer, as well as reading off my general thoughts at the time while reading it. So one of the first things that I came across was the saying, caring for the human spirit was no less essential or real than caring for the human structure, nor separate from it. And I find that to be a very good piece of wording. And why I say that is because I feel like a lot of the times in modern medicine today, you know, doctors are so specialized, right? Like they're either studying the heart, they're studying the kidney or lymphatic system or endocrine system. But the thing is, the body is all interconnected. If you think about it, you know, your brain is sending neurons to every part of your body. Therefore, if something's malfunctioning up here, it's going to cause something else down here to malfunction. But if you're just going into the doctor for like joint pain, they may not necessarily connect it with your brain. Does that make sense? Like they're just going to think maybe arthritis or fibromyalgia or something like that. And when the actual problem is stemming from your brain. That's just a loose example of that. But a lot of the time, Western doctors don't connect the dots. They only see the one dot and they hyper focus on the one dot, but there's a bunch of other dots that are connected that are causing the malfunction all the way down, if that makes sense. And I feel like oftentimes that is very much the case with a lot of autoimmune diseases. You all of a sudden get all these random symptoms that just don't seem to be connecting. And I can talk about that through personal experience with fibromyalgia. Is every day is something different. You know, numbness in hands, nausea, like confusion. Like you'll even see sometimes when I'm doing these videos that I'll just like not be able to come up with words, or I'll pause because I just completely lose my train of thought. All these things are interconnected together, all caused by fibromyalgia, but I've gone to probably about 12 doctors in all to get each symptom looked at and addressed, because of course each doctor thinks it's something else when really it's just one thing with multiple symptoms. So it's complicated, right? The human body is very complicated, and doctors are just so nichey these days that unless you're just a generalized like healthcare provider where you're kind of seeing a lot of people from different ages and different ethnicities and different groups of people, and you get a wide range of study on your daily basis from seeing different patients, you are not necessarily going to have all the knowledge you need to treat every patient that walks through your door. So it's hard. It's really hard. The system is just not great when we come to that kind of stuff. Another quote that they wrote in there was, "An organism that destroys its environment destroys itself." What I absolutely love about like Eastern medicine is that they acknowledge nature. You know, they acknowledge that we are interconnected with the world around us. It is not just us. We are not just the prime beings of the universe, and therefore everything around us is going to affect us, and we affect everything around us. And you know, some people may find that cheesy or whatever, but it's true. And it's frustrating that as a whole, you know, each of us individually can do our part to, you know, help the planet, but the big guns up top don't give two shits, right? There's consumerism, there's global warming happening, and guess what? None of it is being acknowledged, because if they acknowledge it, they're going to have to realize that they're going to have to change. And they don't want to change because guess what? Money talks. And so you see this has just gotten out of control, right? Like, and so morally gray in a lot of areas. You know, when you buy that, you know, $2 shirt from Temu or, you know, Shein, and trust me, I've done it too. Sometimes you just need a good deal, right? You just need a good deal. And I understand that. But guess who made that garment? And they're probably making a couple cents for that garment. And then, you know, the shipping cost and just all the damage that it does to the ecosystem and the people. And I mean, yes, we can't all just think about these things 24/7. We would go insane, right? Like, there's so much wrong with the world that we can't personally fix it, like, all by ourselves. And it would be naive to think that we could. And it's stressful to think about it on a daily basis. But, you know, I'm sure there's lots of people out there that feel the same way, you know, like these things are happening and we can't just turn a blind eye to it. So the best that we can do is just do our little parts in trying to make the world a better, safer, you know, ethnically moral place to live. But yeah, I'm not perfect at it. Definitely not. There's a lot more things that I'm trying to be more mindful of, you know, but also at the end of the day, I'm a single lady, you know, with a job that I absolutely love, but doesn't necessarily make a ton of money doing it. And yeah, sometimes I just want that, you know, 70% off shirt that I can wear to work and I can wear out. And yeah, so I get it. I totally get it. Just being maybe more mindful as a whole. And I'm mainly talking about the big companies because they're the ones doing the most damage. So, another thing, maintaining order rather than correcting disorder is the ultimate principle of wisdom. To cure disease after it has appeared is like digging a well when one already feels thirst, or forging weapons after the war has already begun. This quote speaks to me metaphorically because, I mean, I'm not really one to be like super conspiracy theory wise, but I've always felt like there is something to be said about the big pharmaceutical companies kind of keeping people somewhat sick. And I'm not saying that's everybody doing that, but I mean, if you think about it, it feels like that sometimes, you know, even if it's not true. Because think about it. You go into the doctor, you have some kind of problem, right? They give you medicine to solve that particular problem. Let's say joint pain. So they give you a muscle relaxant or whatever they give you to help with the joint pain. Arthritis. I'm sure there's plenty of medication out there for that. Then next thing you know, you're having intestinal problems. All of a sudden you're like, why can't I digest food? Why am I having a hard time with A, B, and C? All of a sudden this medication has caused those symptoms, but your doctor still prescribes it to you because they think that the pros outweigh the cons, right? But now you've got 3 other symptoms that makes life really hard to live with. So then you go into the doctor and like, okay, listen, I've got these things happening. What can we do? And they're like, oh, guess what? I've got another pill for you for A, B, and C. So next thing you know, your 1 pill now turns into 3, turns into 10, turns into 12. And next thing you know, you are practically your own Walgreens pharmacy because you've got so many pills you have to take for all these different symptoms. So it's just a never-ending merry-go-round, right? And I mean, think about how much fucking money these pharmaceutical companies make in a year. I don't even want to fathom how much, to be honest. It's probably this god-awful, sickening amount. And I'm not saying the pharmacists themselves are all like this because I know that they're doing their best, right? You know, they legitimately are probably just in it to try and find cures or ways to help humans live a better quality life. But it's just every drug, I mean, we all know it. We all know that it has, every single one of them has side effects. That's just the way it is. And not every single condition can be treated with an herb or a supplement. Let's face it, that's just not the truth. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that all your problems will be solved if you just go to an Eastern practicing, like, doctor. Like, it's just, that's not realistic. You know, I realized that I have pancreatic insufficiency. Tried to do like a supplement to help it. It didn't work. I needed something with a little bit more oomph, you know. Thyroid issues. A lot of the times that just cannot be treated with a supplement. And a lot of naturopathic doctors will tell you that. The one that I went to, she was great. She's like, we can try this natural thing, but I'm not making promises because thyroid is just, that's a complicated condition, you know, and sometimes you need that medication to get your body to work accurately. So I'm not saying it's everybody, but I can see why people think that there's conspiracy out there that if we just kind of keep everybody kind of sick, it kind of controls everybody. And I mean, not saying I'm 100% on board to believing that, but I don't know. I'm not completely saying that maybe that doesn't happen in some circumstances. But you've got to form your own opinions on that, and I'm not here to talk conspiracy theories. So, mental discomforts need not be ignored or invalidated as being only in your mind. This one is such a big one for me, and I'll tell you why. There are so many different mental disorders and disabilities out there, and they are not talked about enough. I mean, this is a huge problem worldwide, is mental health. And I feel like people are finally becoming more aware of it, but it's still a huge problem. And I'll give you an example. So my mom deals with a lot of anxiety issues, like a lot of anxiety, and she does not like taking medicine for it, which I don't blame her. If you can try to do it without medicine, great. If you need the medicine, great. Whatever helps you be a more like sane human being in the world and not feeling like you're just going crazy every day because you have this anxiety that you just can't control. I mean, it's an awful feeling to deal with. And I have anxiety myself. I take medication for it. My mom has a service dog. Now, what really, 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 really frustrates me is the fact that my mom's dog is a true service dog. She's gone through all the paperwork. She's gone through all the doctor's visits. She's got an official service dog. So, but the thing is, my mom on the outside looks like she's got it all together, right? She takes really good care of herself. She likes to wear makeup. She likes to look nice every day. She's got that blonde Barbie hair. I mean, she is literally the definition of Barbie. And there's nothing wrong with that. And she's got a Pomeranian as a service dog. Pomeranians are extremely smart, FYI. They are very, very smart, and they are very, very good at sensing their person's energy. And so my mom's Pomeranian can do certain skill sets that are strictly involved with anxiety. So she's able to do like 3 different things that are directly related to like an anxiety disorder, where she's able to know where doors are to different buildings, the exits, no matter where they're at. And she does some other things too that are very much service dog services. But everybody who sees my mom automatically assumes that she's just trying to say that her dog's a service dog when it's not. And they make judgments about her dog saying that she's not a real service dog. And I'll tell you, this happened just the other day, just yesterday actually. So they're currently on vacation and they're checking into their hotel. Now, obviously people know service dogs, you do not have to pay for them because they are a service dog. The nasty bitch working the front desk refused my mom and was trying to tell her she needed to pay for Tinkerbell to be there. Tinkerbell is her service dog. My mom has all the paperwork. She's got the paperwork, she's got the official tag, she's got the official leash, she's got all the paperwork, she's got her signed doctor's note. Like, she's got all the information that you need for service dogs. And this, like, I'm gonna say it again, bitch would not let her, was trying to charge her for the dog fee, and which is absurd. Meanwhile, my mom is getting anxiety, right? Because this situation has become stressful. And so, I'm sorry, it's a rant, but it's very frustrating. And I know there's a lot of other people out there that probably feel the same way. Just because your dog is not this massive freaking dog, and just because you're not in a wheelchair or you have a physical disability, does not mean that you cannot have a service dog. So it's just frustrating. And I was really pissed off to hear that. And I've seen her go through that so much. And then she just like freezes up because the anxiety starts kicking in. And this happened at Disney too, which I was super, super embarrassed about and angry about, especially at Disney. And Disney tried to say it was on a like deal-to-deal basis, which is a bunch of bullshit. So Disney needs to check themselves, because you can't deny a service dog. You just can't. Just because it doesn't look like a big old doodle or a big old German shepherd or something like that does not mean they're not valid. So this mental health stuff is just, it needs to be taken more seriously. It really does, because there's a lot of people out there that even if they have just a small dose of anxiety, it can still become debilitating. I mean, panic attacks, people literally think they're having heart attacks when they have a panic attack. So I think it really needs to be acknowledged more. And that's my first rant. I'm sorry, but I'm passionate about this because I have people that I care about that go through anxiety disorders, and they're just discounted. Like, they're not treated seriously and respectfully. And then that just makes the disorder even worse. So anyway, Zheng Wen Tao is the epitome of the modern Chinese medical hero, and he was kind of the first one to unite the modern medicine and modern science with this classical tradition of Chinese medicine. So I thought that was cool that he was kind of the start of it, so to speak, or one of the influencers, so to speak, of that. And so yeah, there's a place for modern medicine, and there's a place for, Eastern, more naturopathic medicines. And it frustrates me when doctors kind of discount other styles of medicine, and kind of almost, and I'm not saying all of them do it, it's definitely not all of them that do it, but the ones that I have come in contact with kind of act like it's not valid in some ways. And it's like, no, they're just because, Eastern medicine has not maybe always been documented the same level Western culture medicine has. But you also have to think about Western medicine is much newer, and Eastern cultures, they've been studying this stuff for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And a lot of it was word of mouth, and it was passed down from generation to generation. And so just because it's not documented the exact same way as Western medicine does not necessarily mean that some of these things do not work. And, it's just frustrating when you talk to doctors about certain naturopathic things that you've been trying, and they just kind of look at you like you're a crazy person. I'm like, no, some of these things are proven. Now, I'm not saying all of them are, you gotta be smart, you gotta do your research, but there are a lot of more natural things that have been passed down through cultures and generations that are tried and true, so to speak, It's kind of like chicken noodle soup. Where did chicken noodle soup come from? But that's still a remedy that is used today when people are sick. And I will swear by chicken noodle soup, okay? I'm usually a vegetarian, but I've had chicken noodle soup before when I was sick, and it makes you feel better. I don't know what magic's in it, if you want to call it magic, I guess, but I am a magical practitioner, so I believe in that kind of stuff. But there's something about chicken noodle soup that just makes you feel better. And that is by no means something that a Western doctor has, prescribed. So it's just, I love how Eastern medicine kind of recognizes each person as an individual and realizes that each treatment needs to be more customizable, and it's not a one size fits all. For instance, two people could have the exact same disease but need to be treated very different ways. But in Western culture, you tend to see if it works for one person, it should just work for everybody, right? And that's not necessarily the case. Okay, so the narrow view of specific cause has limited the scope of effectiveness of modern medicine. I also agree with this statement. So, like I said before, okay, let's take diabetes, for instance. Someone comes in with diabetes. A doctor is going to treat the diabetes, right? But that's probably about where they stop. They're not going to look further into it to find the root cause of what caused the diabetes, if that makes sense, right? So they give you the treatment for the diabetes, but meanwhile, that cause of the diabetes has still gone untreated. And that's because the body is interconnected. So if something's going on, there's probably other things going on as well. But doctors are so niche-y, like I said before, that they're only going to treat the one thing that they specialize in. And they're not maybe always going to think about all the other things that might be causing it. So you're pretty much putting a Band-Aid on a wound, but you're not actually doing anything to fix the problem. You're just helping the symptoms, which is not the way to go about it, because you're never fully going to feel better. You may get a little bit better, but you're still always going to have that problem at the base level that nobody is addressing. So, yeah, at least that's what I found in my findings of, and I've had a lot of experience with medical people. Like, I've had issues going on for 4 years, and I've literally gone to every single doctor imaginable, and I've had a lot of experience with very frustrating, just overall frustrating process with dealing with the medical world. And it's not always the doctor's fault, and I will kind of go over that more too. But anyway, so modern medicine directs its gaze through a microscope so that detail is gained at the expense of a restricted visual field. Specialists look at smaller and smaller fragments, gaining more and more positive information in the form of descriptive data, but losing a sense of integrity of the system as a whole. How did this medical model gain exclusive ascendance in America? Once again, so true. So true. Now, what I find interesting is that later, like just right underneath that, it talks about how this thing called the Flexner Report, it was issued in 1910 by the American Medical Association following this survey, and it recommended that financial support from the foundations be awarded only to medical schools committed to scientific research based on models developed in the 19th century. So, obviously, 19th century, there was a lot of other, like, medicine that was developed before that, you know, from other cultures and such, and they were kind of discounted. So any funding only went to very specific types of medical stuff. So that meant all therapies not based on the Cartesian model were considered unscientific and would therefore be disfranchised. So naturally, naturopathy, homeopathy, and herbology were forced out of the mainstream and relegated to the status of folk medicine. They were ultimately driven under by lack of funds and political harassment. So, you want your answer as to why these things aren't documented in research as much? It's because they were literally cast out. They weren't even given a chance. They never really have been given a fair chance. So, this is why we don't have tons of research on some of these subjects, because way back, 19th century, they pretty much disregarded all of that. So they had no funding. And if you have no funding, how are you supposed to do, you know, tests to see if these things are actually helpful or not? So doctors are either the hero or the villain. And I feel like this is kind of true. And I don't see doctors as villains at all. That would be stupid to say that. They are not. Majority of them are, they do want to help. It's just the whole system is broken as a whole. I mean, think about how many patients doctors see in one day. They probably see 12 to 15 patients a day. And that's just a guess. It could be more for all I know. I don't really know. But they're exhausted. You know, there's only so much they can do. And if you're only seeing your doctor for 5 minutes a visit because they've got so many other things that they have to do and so many other people they have to see, there is no way they're going to be able to give you a quality, like, plan for your health, you know? So it's just, the whole system needs to be reworked. And I think it would help the doctors, it would help the patients, it would help both their relationships together, because it's just frustrating. And the whole thing is frustrating for everybody. So Nobel Prize winning microbiologist René Dubos describes the new threats to health arising out of technological innovation. He says it is a painful and richly documented paradox that every drug of proven worth can itself become a cause of a disease. And I feel like that is so true. Like I said before, you take a pill for one symptom and next thing you know, you've got 10 more symptoms that you have to deal with. And it's just a never-ending merry-go-round. So I found that interesting that a doctor like himself, like, had said that statement. When people are like machines, modern medicine becomes obliged to keep the machine running. Its purpose is defined as avoiding death rather than enriching life. Bodies must be kept alive at all costs because to die is considered intrinsically evil. Death is the enemy to be conquered. Life and death are no longer part of a continuous cycle. And this is such Western thinking. Like, this is such Western thinking. Because if you think about it, the Western culture is more afraid of death than probably any other culture. Like, we look at it as this thing to be avoided. And of course, you know, yes, you want to live life to your fullest. You want to live a good life. You want to live a long life, of course. But when that time comes, for instance, why are we so humane to animals, right? You know, you take your animal to the vet. It's sick. It's been sick for a long time. Your vet's like, okay, listen, your beloved pet is dying. You know, they've only got maybe a couple days left to live. We don't drag it out, do we? No, we humanely put them under. And of course that is heartbreaking, and it's hard, and it's awful, and been there, done that, and it hurts. It really does. But it's the right thing to do, right? When that time comes, it's better than drawing out the suffering for these animals. But yet, when it comes to our human counterparts, we hook them up to these machines and we give them all these drugs and just to prolong life, even if the quality of life is at the worst it can be. So it's like, why are we so humane to our animals, but yet we're not humane or think about that stuff for our human counterparts? Now, I'm glad we're humane to animals. I'm glad we are, but I just feel like we could be so much more humane to humans as well when that time comes. Instead of just having them on all these machines and doing all this stuff that it's not really improving their quality of life. It's just making it so that they're a little bit more comfortable, but it's just dragging out the inevitable. It's like, I would rather have my family member be at peace than to have them be in a hospital plugged to a bunch of stuff when there's no chance of them getting better, you know? And I know there was probably various opinions on that, and that's perfectly okay if you don't agree with me. I respect your viewpoint as well, but to me, it just, you know, I just feel like it could be done a little bit better. So what injures the earth injures me. Conversely, to restore and preserve the good health of one body and mind is to foster the well-being of the whole, the earth, and all life upon it. And so, like I kind of mentioned this before, is that once we realize that we are a part of nature and that it is our job to keep it the healthiest it can be, then we really do realize that it's a part of us and we are a part of it. So it's kind of, we're supposed to all work together to, you know, have a good place to live and a good, healthy place to live. So next section that I'm going to talk about a little bit, this is going to be a really long video, and I'm so sorry because I already marked it off. We're probably going to have to stop earlier than I even mentioned here because I'm just going on and on and on. Anyway, next thing that I want to kind of talk about is Qi, and that is the kind of the life force, or at least what the Chinese culture, you know, believes in. That Qi is kind of the energy, the life force that runs through you. And all physical and mental activities are manifestations of Qi. Sensing, cognating, feeling, digesting, stirring, propagating, all these things are part of Qi. And so you also have different kinds. So you have food and air Qi, and there's a lot of different things. So Qi refers to resources the human organism consumes, transforms, and transmits. So that's kind of the job of it. The body is organized as blood, moisture, and Qi. The blood governs tissue, the material form of the body. The moisture governs the internal environment and the body's inner ocean. The Qi governs the shape and activity of the body and its process of forming and organizing itself. So this is when we start getting very into it and in-depth and complicated. So, and obviously pick up this book and read some of it yourself because it is really interesting. It's pretty cool to learn about. So each like one of these, of course, then you also have wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. So those are kind of the 5 elements that fit underneath the Chinese like medicine. And each of those have a lot of correspondences and a lot of things that go with them. So they each have like a sky. So for instance, like the moon or the sun, time, a season, a temperature, a humidity, a spectrum, realm, solidity, texture, mass, stages, and form. They have a dimension, a locale, internal organs, constituents, processes, temperature, capacity, and stages. So then you also have like yin and yang. So of course, yin is more passive, yang is more active. They're opposites, right? And both opposites kind of keep the homeostasis and balance of a human being. So there's yin and yang to each one of these elements. So it's very complex. But so this book also has a really cool little section where it literally has all of them, like they have a lot of little charts, which is helpful as well. So for instance, just to go through like a little bit of it. So like wood, the expression is anger. The organ network is the liver network. And the tissue that goes along with it is eyes, nails, ligaments, and nerves. Your substance is going to be your nullified blood. And your essence are tears. For fire, the expression is going to be joy. It's the heart network, the external ear, tongue, and the arteries. Then you also have, it's connected with oxygenated blood for your substance, and then your essence is going to be your sweat. With earth, it's going to be rumination is the expression. It's going to be your spleen network that's connected with, as well as mouth, lips, gums, and muscles. It also works with your collagen and your fat. And then chyle is your substance, and saliva is going to be the essence. Metal, it works with sorrow. Lung network, skin and pores, body, hair, lymph vessels, and veins. It works with your lymph and your mucus. Lastly, you have water, and fear is the expression that goes with water. It's going to be your kidney network. So this is your inner ear, head, and pubic hairs, bones, teeth, and marrow, brain, and spinal cord, anus, urethra, cervix, ovaries, and testes. Your cerebral spinal fluid, and your sexual secretions. Sorry, that's a mouthful. So that's what all of those go with. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. Okay, so like I said before, there's a balance of yin and yang between everything, right? Between all the networks, between us, between our energies, everything. So the dense yin organs of the liver, heart, spleen, lung, and kidney store the essential and potential energy derived from substances. The hollow yang organs of the gallbladder, small intestines, stomach, large intestines, and bladder process the substances of the external environment. However, yin and yang are relative, not absolute designations. The heart is a solid organ and therefore yin, yet its propulsive contraction while squeezing the blood through the vessels is yang. This is what is meant by the yang within the yin. So, yeah, right? And the thing is with Chinese medicine, you almost have to get out of your head with Western medicine, right? Because it's different. Like the way that they think of things is much more different than like our Western culture and how our organ systems work within our culture. So you gotta kind of be able to separate both. Chinese medicine makes use of acupuncture, herbs, diet, physical exercise, massage, shout out to massage therapists, mental discipline, and the modification of lifestyle habits as forms of therapy to reestablish the rhythmic swing of the yin-yang pendulum. And yes, it's yang, I'm pretty sure, and not yang. A lot of people say yang, but I'm pretty positive it's yang. So if you keep hearing me say that and you're like, you're saying it wrong, I don't think I am. I will double check that, but I'm almost 99% positive because I had a professor in our massage school and he got so mad when people said yin and yang because he's like, it's yang, it's yang. I'm like, okay, it's yang, great. So I'm pretty sure it's yang. But as far as yang and yin go, a yang body is going to be larger, stronger, more tense, springy, and muscular, with a greater capacity for food and activity and a minimal requirement for rest. Yang prefers and feels comfortable in a stimulating, complex environment and acts quickly and impulsively, as if endowed with an unlimited supply of stamina and invisible immunity to harm. So, yang tends to overindulge without severe consequences, and when sick, to suffer intensely and recover quickly. So I'm yin. Yin all the way. In fact, I have a lot more yin in me than yang. So I need to balance out my yang with my yin. So a yin body is going to be smaller, more slender and sinewy, and soft and dense rather than tense. To be yin is to enjoy quiet, calm, simple environments. That is me. I do not like to go out in public. I mean, I do and I don't. I'm very complicated. And possess a more limited capacity for food, work, and interaction. It is a preference to yin to avoid prolonged stress and to desire regular, adequate periods of rest and rejuvenation. Yes, please. This is why I love my job as a massage therapist, because I literally go, I don't talk to people for like 3 hours, and I just zone out and do my massage dance on everybody, and people come out super happy and in a good mood, and they enjoy seeing me, and I'm not stressed out. So it is the perfect job for me. Yin illnesses develop gradually and symptoms linger. Yin tends to be more conservative and efficient, again, more like the tortoise than the hare. Yang is not necessarily healthier than yin. A person with a more yin constitution may live longer and accomplish more because his or her lifestyle and environment are less stressful. More yang individuals likely to suffer the long-term consequences of abuse, neglect, and short-sightedness. So, balance between both. There's going to be pros and cons to both as well. So, how much more of this do I have? Oh my goodness. We're probably going to about stop there for today, because this is going to be about 45 minutes long if I go into the rest of this with the different organ networks. That's a whole other thing, so we might not go into that today. Let's see here. Okay, so like correspondences between the yin and yang. So your yin is going to be substantive, contracting, descending, cold, watery, forming, heavy, hidden, interior. Your psychological of yin is going to be your generation of blood, lymph, hormones, mucus, urine, perspiration, nutrient, substances, collagen, and fat. Your constitutional patterns of yin are low energy, lethargic, sallow, pasty, pale complexion, small, soft, flaccid body, delicate features, weak, soft voice, hypotensive, tends to feel cold, and tends toward damp. So that's another thing that I find really interesting about like the Chinese medicine is their different ways of wording things. So like their use of damp and you also see that I feel like in Ayurveda as well, which is what you see in like India and what they practice there. So these different words to describe like your energy and essence. It's very different as far as like how we would word things. And then lastly, your diagnostic parameters for yin is going to be internal, cold, deficiency, and chronic. So with yin, like it said, if you get sick, it's going to be more of a chronic versus acute, which is yang. So your yang, universal, is active, it's expanding, ascending, hot, dry, transforming, light, revealed exterior. Your psychological is going to be process of circulation, secretion, discharge, peristalsis, pulsation, metabolism, and respiration. Your constitutional patterns is going to be your high energy, your hyperactive, ruddy, swarthy, which I'm not really sure what that word means, but flushed complexion, large, firm, fleshy body, coarse features, projecting loud voice, hypertensive, tends to feel warm, and tends toward dry. And your diagnostic parameters is external, hot, excess, and acute. So that's all of those. Now, illnesses may be identical, but the persons suffering from them are different. So like I kind of mentioned before, this is true. Everyone will react differently to the same treatment. Therefore, you need to treat each person as an individual. So we are probably going to stop there for now, just because we are about at the 45 mark, which means we've almost gone for darn near an hour. So my next video, we're probably going to cover the 5 climates. So yeah, within all of this other stuff, you have climates, which are like the different seasons. So you have like wind, which is associated with spring and the wood phase. And then you have heat, which is associated with fire and summer. And then you have dampness, which is your late summer and your earth phase. And then you have your dryness, which is your metal phase with autumn. And then cold, of course, is winter and your water phase. And within each of those phases, you have certain things that you're either more prone to or that kind of fall under each of those, whether your system is working correctly or if it's not working correctly. You'll see certain kind of elements within each of those. But we will go into more detail in that in our next video probably. And this may be more than 3 videos because this is just a lot of stuff, because you also have emotions that go along with it as well, like I kind of mentioned before. And then you have, you also have like, they give them certain names, but yet you have like the 5 organ networks and personalities that go with each of those. And it just goes on and on and on and on. And there's just a lot of really in-depth information. So to not overwhelm you and not to overwhelm myself, so that you don't have to listen to me babble on and on and on, we will save the rest of it for another video. But if you are interested so far and you want to continue to learn about more of the Chinese medicine as I go along and read this book, be sure to like this video, subscribe to all my other videos, ring the notification bell so that you get notifications of my videos, and I will see you next time for another video. As always, stay happy and healthy, and I will see you next time when we talk more about Chinese medicine. Bye!